Well, Nick, first of all, having Greg, Chandler Thompson, and Billy Butts as a part of our team was awesome. Also included on that team was Rodney Haynes, who was from Newcastle, and Dave Barber, who was actually a gray shirt guy, was one of the practice guys. He worked his heart out, and busted his butt, man, and ended up getting a scholarship to be with us that year, our senior year. And playing here in front of the Muncie crowd was probably, I mean, they were like our sixth man on the court, to be honest. You have, we're out there doing what we can do, but when you can have a crowd and fans like we had in Muncie, oh man, it took us over the top. It helped us, especially, when we had those big games that we had coming up. So it was fun. Well, everybody loves a winner.
Uh-huh.
And I think that the fans that we had here in Ball State, here in Muncie, were special. And that right there segues me right into how I feel about Muncie itself. Muncie, when I'm out and about and I'm talking about it, I get an opportunity to tell people how I feel about Muncie. And I always describe Muncie as being like a hole in the wall. In that, anytime you say something was like a hole in the wall, there's always this ... that follows. They had the best this. They had this super special something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it is about Muncie. What I really get a chance to appreciate, because I've had a chance to come into Muncie, and I've seen all of the little nooks, the crannies, the little special times, the special people, And Ball State in itself, I describe it as the boutique of colleges in Indiana. And in boutiques, you always find something special in boutiques. You find original pieces in boutiques. So, that's how I feel about being here in Muncie and what Muncie is like, what it really represents, So it's a cool spot. So you're right. Yes, you're 100% right. So in that, what you have to understand is we had a new coach that came in. So Hunsaker, he comes in. There were some adjustments that we had to make as a team. How he wanted to fit the team together from his vision of what he saw, as opposed to the previous year, because we had all of our returning starters coming back our senior year. But to your point, when you talk about guys being here locally, Chandler was a local kid. He was a highly recruited kid. He was a special kid as well, a player. So at some point, coach was trying to figure out how he was going to utilize Chandler. So there was a little mix-up, a little, stagnant piece for us as far as coming together chemistry-wise, because of some of the changes he was doing. He was trying to adapt. And like I said, he wanted to come in and bring his own flavor to what we had, to show that he had it as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think that number one, he was with us the year before. So he knew all the players. So that's the positive impact right there that he has coming in as an assistant coach and being elevated to the head coach. So that's a positive right there, Him being able to understand the game and know the players that he had was really huge as well. So I think the camaraderie that we had as a group from the previous year, that was really helpful, that he understood that he needed to let us be who we were as players and as young men at the same time. So I would say that he brought that type of positivity to our team. Anytime you coming in, you playing for a new coach, that right there is that's something that's very challenging in itself.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say for sure it was. Rick Majerus was really more of in the previous year, he was more of a teacher, right? He was really about teaching the game, the little aspects, the little nuances of the game. He really understood that very well. He was the kind of guy that as you drive a guy baseline, and if you don't cut the guy off at baseline, that guy can still slide past you and get to the bucket. He would stop practice if that happened. Stop practice and say, hey, listen, move over 6 more inches. He was that detailed. Hunsaker was the guy that came in with the X's and O's. He was the thinker out there for, I think, Coach Majerus while the game was going, with the plays, with the offensive sets. when to implement them, and like I said, understanding who could do what, being able to put guys in the right position for us to have some success.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, Nick, let me share this with you. Any loss is a tough loss, right? And so when you're an athlete and you're out there, you're competing and you're trying to win, you're going out there to play to win. So when you lose, you understand that somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, right? But you go out there and you play the game and, understanding, first of all, that college is a business. It's a business now, it was a business back then, right? So when we were playing, you got to understand who was in that tournament that we played in. It was Illinois, it was Memphis State, Grambling, and Ball State. So they paired Ball State with Illinois, and they paired Grambling with Memphis State. So, I'm sorry, they paired us with Memphis State and Grambling with Illinois. So, with that said, you already know who they want to be in the championship game, right? So, it wasn't really a tough loss as it was we got railroaded, you know what I mean, by the referees, because we played. We were up like 15 points with and I remember it, we were up like about, I think, double-digit points with about 5 minutes to go in the game. And then the calls started coming in. And Elliot Perry, I'll never forget, Elliot Perry he hit 22 points from the free throw line. They fouled Scott Nichols out. Scott had him on lockdown. Scott Nichols put the cuffs on Elliot Perry. He couldn't do anything. And of course, we were naturally a defensive team. So any team that came out and thought they wanted to just come out and run and shoot, it was over with for them when they played against Ball State. But that game wasn't so much a tough game as it was just a disappointment at how, the politics play a part in these wins and losses sometimes. So you mentioned that we won 10 in a row, 10 out of 11 or something like that. When you're playing, you don't even think about that. So I didn't know that. You're telling me this right now. We play every night. Every night we went out there to play, we went out there to win. And if we didn't lose, you had to brush it off and be ready for the next game. One of the things one of my coaches shared before, he's like, guys, when you make a turnover, this is Mike Newell out of Little Rock. He said, guys, and I learned this at 18, my freshman year. He said, when you make a mistake, he said, don't drop your head. As soon as you drop your head, you create a turnover. The other team is running back to capitalize. He said, you got to get back. So you go to the free throw line. We want both free throws. He said, if you miss the first one, don't let that first miss make you miss the second one. So you got to forget about it, right? So the same thing with that loss against Memphis State. We lost it, but we were coming back to go play, our next game. I think we beat Grambling the next game after we played, as the consolation game or something, But we went on to keep it going. We were on a mission, and we had a group of guys. We were special. We were all playing for each other. Well, me personally, I never saw myself as an underdog. So, these guys come out here to play, put your jock straps on, lace your shoes up, the same as I do. The only thing that was different was that they had, whatever school on their shirts. That was it. But they had to come out tonight and prove that they could play better than us. You know what I mean? So that was never, I never walked around with a chip I had anything to prove ever. What I wanted to show is that I was going to be the hardest worker out there on the court. Every opportunity I had, I'm going to get out there and give all that I have. Not the best that I have. I'm going to give all that I have. I'm leaving it right there on the court. Well, first of all, that's every kid's dream with the countdown. 3, 2, 1, and then you take the shot and you knock it in, right? Coach, again, going back to Coach Hunsaker, him knowing the players and putting us in positions to be able to have success. When we had that timeout, it was 2 seconds left on the clock. Called a timeout. We all sitting down there. Greg Miller, who was from Yorktown. I'm sitting here on the bench, and Coach says, Greg, get Paris. And as soon as he said it, in my head, it sped up 100 times. And I'm like, what are you doing? How you going to take me out? I've been here this whole time. This game's still on the line. But before I could get through that complete thought, he said, no, scratch that. Paris, you're going to win the game for us. He said it just like that. He drew the play up. We went out there and we executed. But I think the biggest piece on that was Mike Spicer. Mike Spicer was the highlight. Scott Nichols fouled out of the game. He was our general out there on the court. Scott Nichols was. When he fouled out, Mike had to come in, and Mike had to make the perfect pass. And that's one of the hardest passes to make, an out-of-bounds pass. It's a lot of guys that crack under pressure like that. But Mike Spicer, he came through. He put it in the right spot. Now it was up to me to go get it as we executed the play. And as you well know, the rest was history. You know, the guys fouled me on the shot. And going up to that free throw line, you know, the only thing I could think about was how my teammates, my brothers, know that I can knock down free throws. If I don't knock that free throw down, I choked. So because I knew that they were relying on me to hit that shot, I knew I had to hit the shot. Of course, you know, you could say afterwards, you know, I wasn't scared or anything like that, but I didn't think twice about it. You know, the job wasn't finished. That was an and one. And I like to call it, I got three the hard way, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So being able to knock that shot down, being able to step up there, that was a moment made for me, because that's just who I was. You know, I happened to read an article that Hunsaker, someone did an interview with Hunsaker, I think maybe 25 years later or something like that, and they brought my name up, and he, in the article, it read, gave a good image that when they said my name, it said Hunsaker smile, and said, now that's a name that brings back a lot of good memories. And one of the most, I think this is probably a huge compliment for me as an athlete, as a player, as a competitor, for him to say that he literally said that I was the most clutch guy he ever coached in his career. So that was super cool for me, you know. Well, you got to keep in mind I was a senior that year, and I've been in those positions before, and I think that's what, you know, Coach, obviously, you know, he understood that as well. And yeah, when you step up to the line, you know, you want to finish a job, to get a job done. You know, you hear the crowd, but you don't hear the crowd. You know, I saw the faces on my teammates' faces. That's what I saw. I saw my teammates' faces, and that was my lift right there. You know, I knew I had to go up there and knock that shot down. So I went up there and did what I do normally. It's not like, I can't say I was Superman or anything like that, but it was routine. At that point, it was routine. So, Nick, that's a great question, and I love talking about Curtis. So for me to be where I am right now in my life, you know, I have to include Curtis' part of that along the way. So when you go back to us playing high school basketball together, I don't know if you knew that or not, but we played high school basketball together. We were the Cooley Cardinals in high school. We went down to Little Rock. We had some great success there. We come to Ball State Cardinals. We said to each other, we're gonna be Cardinals for life, you know. And so coming here to Ball State and just really having the success that we had, you know, Curtis was that kind of guy that he wanted to win just as much as I wanted to win. We were cut from the same cloth, right? And Curtis just had a fight in him, a tenacity about him that was just unstoppable. So we just paired up. I considered us bookends. You know, that's how I kind of coined he and I together. But Curtis is more than a brother to me. You know, just having somebody, you know, you grew up with, high school, you grow into your manhood. You know, you go through some ups and downs and whatnot. And he was a support system for me and IE, you know, at the same time, you know. So it was our relationship is still the same. We're still bonded. We're still connected at the hips, you know. And you know, I always get a chance to talk. We talk on the phone all the time. I get a chance to see him when I go to Detroit, you know, when I go home to visit or whatever. And you know, it's a great memories, you know. And when you look at the history of what we were able to build together, you don't realize it until later. I get a chance to hear all the people talk about the success that we had here. And when I talk to Curtis, I say, man, Kurt, do you know somebody told me, man, that we had over 100 Division I basketball wins? I said, do you realize that we won 4 conference championships? Do you realize we went to the NCAA 3 times out of the 4 years we were in school? Do you realize we were in the Final Four at the NIT? Do you realize we were ranked in the top 10? You know, the list goes on and on. And so, you know, our career, you know, when you compare that to other Division I players, you know, we've had some major successes. But what we were able to do here in Muncie, for Ball State, I mean, we're in this arena right here. You know, after the success that we had 2 years back to back, that excited the Muncie community. It excited Ball State. It excited the supporters. And they were able to say, hey, listen, I think we're getting ready to start a program. I think our program is about to take off. And I would say that Curtis and I are very intricate parts of that. And from that success we had this beautiful arena here on campus now. Yeah. You know, although we never had a chance to play in it, you know, I really can look back and see the work that we put in really paid off. Our whole unit, our whole team. You know. Well, if you really consider the fact that we didn't play in Detroit at all. We never played in Detroit, except for when we were in high school. That's a high school level play, you know. Yeah. So you have certain followers. But at the college level, you know, it's a different type of crowd that's in there. So of course we were able to play in front of our family. That's a bonus. Our family was able to travel and come here. So it was really, you know, we didn't really know the folks that were out there. We didn't know the crowd. It was like us playing on the road, really, to be honest with you, you know. But we just had the desire to win. We wanted to go win. We didn't care who we were in front of. It didn't have to be anybody in the arena, but we were going to go out there to win that game. But of course, because we were able to say, hey, we're from Detroit, we were able to stake that claim with the guys. We could brag about that part of it, you know, and it was fun. It was fun being there in our hometown.
Do you think that made your teammates want to try a little harder for you guys?
So that's a good question. That's something that you might have to ask them because, you know, I think that they played the same all the time. We had a pact amongst each other that we were playing for each other. We didn't play for ourselves. And if you look at our stats, the way that we were, you know, pretty much across the board, everybody was pretty balanced. You know, nobody was out there playing for self. Mm-hmm. We were just playing to win. We were enjoying the excitement of winning. So obviously we worked in practice. We only had a week to prepare for it, you know, which was enough. We watched a lot of film, and the way we designed our defense according to their strengths. So what we had to go out there and stop, or what we couldn't allow them to be able to do. And going out there to play against UNLV, again, they just had UNLV across their shirts. I didn't know anything about those guys. I didn't follow basketball. I don't follow basketball now. Playing against UNLV was just like playing against any other team for us. There wasn't anything different that we had to prepare for other than a scheme for, you know, their type of players, you know, their strengths and how we wanted to play them, which essentially worked out. You know, most teams, from what you can see, they beat everybody by about 30 or something like that in the tournament that year. So to lose to the reigning champs, you know, you don't feel as bad. You don't feel bad about it. You wish you can get a chance to play them again and see what you can do. But it wasn't a terrible loss for us. You know, we made it pretty far. See, we got the banner up there, Sweet 16. Where is it? Here it is right here. Sweet 16 up there, 1990. So that right there, it says a lot. You know, it wasn't what anybody expected. You know, we overachieved. You know, so we still were able to walk away with some pride.